The Sentinel Strain. Chapter 1, Whispers from the Ashes. The sun beat down on cracked earth, the heat shimmering in waves that distorted the skeletal remains of skyscrapers, piercing the horizon. Rusting hulks of vehicles lay scattered amidst the debris, half buried in sand dunes that whispered across the barren landscape. This was Earth, year 3042, a silent testament to a glorious past reduced to ruins. Xylo crouched behind a toppled statue, its humanoid features eroded by time. He was not a native to this harsh world. Standing just under 4 feet tall, his lithe form was covered in a fine layer of greenish-brown fur, his large amber eyes constantly scanning the surroundings through infrared filters. He pulled his dusty cloak tighter, the thin fabric a meager shield against the relentless sun and stinging sand. "System check," Xylo muttered to himself, his voice a soft clicking sound through his respirator. The device hummed in response, its filtration system straining against the thin, dusty air. Oxygen levels low, radiation levels within acceptable parameters. He glanced at the cracked screen of his handheld scanner, the map flickering with static. The energy signature he'd followed was now stronger than ever, emanating from somewhere deep beneath the ruins. It was an echo of technology, a beacon of hope in this desolate wasteland. "Must find source," Xylo whispered, his voice thick with the effort of breathing. He pushed himself up, his muscles protesting the unfamiliar strain of Earth's gravity. Navigating through the maze of rubble, Xylo's agile movements were almost feline, his long limbs carrying him over piles of twisted metal and shattered glass. Occasionally, he would pause, his ears twitching, picking up the faint scuttling of mutated insects or the rustle of wind through the hollow shells of buildings. The energy signature led him to the edge of a gaping chasm, a scar torn into the earth, revealing a network of metal structures buried deep underground. Xylo activated his headlamp, its beam cutting through the darkness like a surgeon's scalpel. "This is it!" he gasped, his excitement tinged with apprehension. A glint of metal caught his eye, a symbol etched into a massive door, a stylized human figure within a shield. He approached the door, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The air grew colder, the silence pressing in on him. He reached out a trembling hand and touched the door's surface, feeling the cool metal beneath his fur. "Please," he whispered, a silent plea to the spirits of this long-dead civilization. "Let this be the answer. A way to save my people." Taking a deep breath, he activated the door's control panel. The glyphs, unfamiliar but strangely intuitive, glowed to life under his touch. With a low rumble, the door slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor stretching into the depths. Xylo hesitated, the darkness whispering promises and threats. But the energy signature, now pulsating with renewed strength, beckoned him onward. "For Xylos," he murmured, stepping into the unknown, the door sealing shut behind him with a final hiss. The silence was absolute, the darkness complete. Yet Xylo felt a strange warmth, a sense of anticipation. He was not alone. The echo of the past was waiting for him. Chapter 2. Echoes in the Deep. The corridor stretched before Xylo, a dimly lit tunnel that seemed to burrow deeper into the heart of the earth. The air hung heavy with the stale scent of machine oil and decay. The walls, smooth and cold to the touch, pulsed with a faint hum like the heartbeat of a slumbering beast. Xylo moved cautiously, his headlamp illuminating the path before him. Every echoing footstep sent shivers down his spine. He passed row upon row of inactive machinery, their metal surfaces covered in a layer of dust, their screens flickering with ghostly images. The corridor opened into a vast cylindrical chamber. In the center, bathed in an eerie blue glow, stood a massive stasis pod. Its transparent surface revealed a figure clad in sleek, black armor, the face obscured by a helmet. A web of wires and tubes snaked into the pod, feeding the slumbering figure with life-sustaining fluids. Xylo approached the pod, his curiosity overcoming his fear. He reached out a hand to touch the glass, feeling the cold surface beneath his fur. "Fascinating," he whispered. "A warrior in stasis. Could this be the source of the energy signal?" He began to examine the control panel beside the pod, his nimble fingers tracing the unfamiliar symbols. Interesting, he muttered. Human technology. Far more advanced than anything I've encountered. Suddenly, a series of alarms blared through the chamber, the lights flashing a harsh red. The stasis pod hissed and whirred, its fluids draining as the glass retracted. The figure inside stirred, its eyes snapping open, glowing a bright blue. The figure sat up, the armor clanking as it moved. It scanned the room, its gaze settling on Xylo. "Threat detected," a voice boomed through the chamber, amplified by hidden speakers. "Eliminate." In a flash, the figure launched itself out of the pod, landing in a crouch before Xylo. It moved with inhuman speed and precision, its armored fists clenched. Xylo stumbled back, fear jolting through him. "Wait!" Xylo cried, activating his universal translator. "I mean no harm. I am Xylo, a scout from the Xylonian species. We come in peace." The figure paused, its head tilting slightly. "Xylonian, unknown species," the voice replied, the tone flat and emotionless. "Threat level assessment. Ongoing." Xylo held his ground, his heart pounding in his chest. "We are refugees," he explained, his voice trembling. "Our homeworld was destroyed by the Kriegs. We seek only a safe haven." The figure remained motionless, its blue eyes scanning Xylo's form. "Kriegs, known threat, hostile species." Xylo saw a flicker of understanding in the figure's eyes, a glimmer of shared purpose. "Yes," he said, his voice steadier now. "We are both victims of their aggression. Perhaps we can help each other." The figure straightened, its armor clanking. "Assistance. Possible. Information required." Xylo nodded, a sense of relief washing over him. The initial hostility seemed to have subsided, replaced by a cautious curiosity. This ancient warrior, a relic of a fallen civilization, may yet prove to be an ally in the Xylonians' fight for survival. A flicker of hope ignited in the darkness. Chapter 3: Shadows of the Past. The chamber fell silent, save for the hum of dormant machinery and the rhythmic hiss of Xylo's respirator. Apex lowered his fists, his glowing blue eyes fixed on the diminutive alien before him. "Humanity? Extinct?" Apex's voice echoed, a rumble that vibrated through Xylo's bones. "Failed mission?" Xylo watched as Apex's shoulders slumped, the rigid posture of a warrior replaced by the weariness of defeat. The soldier's gaze drifted to the floor, his fingers flexing and unflexing as if grasping for a weapon that was no longer there. "I failed," Apex repeated, the words heavy with sorrow. "I was programmed to protect, but I was not there." Xylo took a tentative step forward, his voice gentle. "You were not at fault, Apex. The destruction of your world was a tragedy, but it was not your failure." Apex looked up, his eyes searching Xylo's face. "But my purpose, my mission." Xylo nodded, understanding dawning in his amber eyes. "Your mission was a noble one, Apex, and it is not over." He reached out a hand, placing it on Apex's armored shoulder. "My people, the Xylonians, we are also fighting for survival. The Kriegs, they are a scourge upon the galaxy, consuming worlds and enslaving their inhabitants." Xylo's voice grew stronger, fueled by the pain of his people's suffering. "They destroyed my homeworld, Xylos, a paradise turned to ash. They hunt us now, relentless in their pursuit." Apex listened intently, his expression softening. "The Kriegs, they are a threat to all," he said, a flicker of his old resolve returning to his eyes. "They must be stopped." Xylo smiled, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Indeed, but we are not alone. We have each other. And you, Apex, with your strength and knowledge, you can be a beacon of hope for my people." Apex looked at Xylo, his gaze unwavering. "I will help you," he said, his voice firm. "I will fight by your side, for Xylos, for humanity, for all who suffer under the Krieg's tyranny." Xylo's heart swelled with gratitude. He had found an unlikely ally, a warrior from a fallen world, ready to rise again and fight for a new cause. Together, they would face the darkness, fueled by a shared hope for a better future. As they left the chamber, Apex paused, looking back at the stasis pod. A part of him still clung to the past, to the mission that had defined his existence. But a new path beckoned, one paved with the promise of redemption and a chance to fulfill his purpose in a way he never imagined. Chapter 4: Legacy of the Fallen. Leaving the stasis chamber behind, Apex and Xylo ventured deeper into the labyrinthine Sentinel facility. The flickering lights cast long shadows that danced on the walls, giving the illusion of movement where there was only stillness. "This place? It feels like a tomb," Xylo remarked, his voice barely a whisper. Apex nodded, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous halls. "It is a tomb," he replied, "a monument to a failed mission." They passed through a series of laboratories, their once pristine surfaces now covered in dust and cobwebs. Xylo marveled at the strange devices and cryptic symbols that adorned the walls, remnants of a knowledge long lost. Apex, however, seemed lost in thought, his eyes scanning the surroundings with a mix of sadness and nostalgia. "This is where I was created," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Trained, prepared, for a war that never came." Xylo placed a hand on Apex's arm, a gesture of silent understanding. "But your training, your knowledge, it can still be of use," he said, his voice filled with quiet conviction. "My people need your strength, Apex. Your skills can help us fight back against the Kriegs." Apex looked at Xylo, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. "Perhaps you are right," he said. "Perhaps there is still a purpose for me." They continued their exploration, guided by Xylo's scanner. The signal led them to a hidden chamber, its entrance concealed behind a false wall. Inside, a treasure trove of human technology awaited them. Rows of sleek spacecraft, their hulls gleaming even after 1,000 years, lined the walls. Crates filled with advanced weaponry and tools were stacked neatly, their contents preserved in vacuum-sealed containers. Xylo gasped in amazement. "This is incredible," he exclaimed. "Such technology! It could change everything." Apex nodded, a sense of purpose returning to his bearing. "We will use it wisely," he said, "to protect the innocent, to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Working together, Apex and Xylo began to reactivate the facility's systems. Their efforts, aided by Xylo's technical expertise and Apex's intuitive understanding of the technology. They adapted a sleek spacecraft for Xylonian physiology, installing life support systems and modifying the controls to accommodate Xylo's four-limbed form. Hours turned into days as they worked tirelessly, their shared goal fueling their determination. As the ship neared completion, Apex felt a sense of satisfaction he hadn't experienced in millennia. He was no longer a relic of a dead world, but a warrior with a renewed purpose. With the ship ready for launch, Apex and Xylo loaded it with supplies and weapons, their hearts filled with anticipation. They set a course for the hidden moon, the haven of the Xylonian refugees. The time had come to face the Kriegs and fight for a future where all species could live in peace. Chapter 5, Embers of Defiance. The Xylonian refugee fleet huddled in the shadows of the cratered moon, their makeshift dwellings clinging to the rocky slopes. A sense of despair hung heavy in the air, the memory of their ravaged homeworld and the relentless pursuit of the Kriegs, a constant specter haunting their dreams. Word of Xylo's return and his extraordinary companion spread like wildfire through the fleet. Whispers turned into excited murmurs, then into a chorus of hope. Could this be the turning point they had been praying for? Apex stood on a rocky outcrop overlooking the settlement, his imposing figure silhouetted against the starry sky. He watched as Xylonians of all ages and walks of life gathered in the central square, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and cautious optimism. Xylo approached, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "They've heard the news," he said, his voice barely containing his joy. "They believe in you, Apex. They believe in us." Apex turned to Xylo, a flicker of doubt clouding his features. "I am a warrior, Xylo, not a leader. My purpose was to fight, not to inspire." Xylo placed a reassuring hand on Apex's arm. "You inspire them by your very presence, Apex. You are a symbol of hope, a reminder that the Kriegs can be defeated." Xylo's words resonated with Apex, stirring something deep within him. He looked out at the gathered Xylonians, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of awe and expectation. In that moment, a spark of determination ignited within him, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since the fall of Earth. "Very well," Apex declared, his voice booming through the square. "I will lead you. We will fight for our survival, for our freedom, for our future." A cheer erupted from the crowd, their voices echoing through the moon's thin atmosphere. Apex and Xylo descended into the square, surrounded by a sea of eager faces. For days, Apex and Xylo worked tirelessly with the Xylonian engineers and strategists. They studied the moon's terrain, analyzing its unique geological formations, deep canyons, towering rock spires, and vast underground caverns. They experimented with salvaged human weaponry, adapting it to Xylonian physiology and optimizing it for the moon's low-gravity environment. Apex's tactical brilliance and Xylo's technical ingenuity fused together, creating a daring plan. They would use the moon's natural defenses to lure the Kriegs into a trap, a symphony of destruction orchestrated with precision and fueled by their desperation. As the final preparations were made, Apex addressed the Xylonian warriors, his voice echoing through the moon's canyons. "We are outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched," he declared. "But we are not defeated. We will fight with every ounce of our strength, with every fiber of our being. We will fight for our lives, for our families, for our future." The warriors roared their approval, their spirits lifted by Apex's unwavering resolve. They were no longer a scattered band of refugees, but a unified force ready to face their oppressors. In the distance, the faint glow of Krieg scout ships flickered on the horizon. The battle for the moon was about to begin. Chapter 6, Forged in Fire. The Krieg armada descended upon the moon, a swarm of warships blotting out the stars. Their hulls, bristling with energy cannons and missile launchers, cast menacing shadows across the cratered landscape. The air crackled with anticipation, the silence a prelude to the coming storm. From their hidden positions, the Xylonians watched as the Krieg landing craft disgorged their troops, armored figures pouring onto the lunar surface like a dark tide. A collective gasp swept through the Xylonian ranks, but there was no fear, only grim determination. Apex, his armor gleaming in the moonlight, raised his voice, the amplified sound booming across the battlefield. "Xylonians, today we fight for our home, for our freedom, for our future. Today we show the Kriegs that even the smallest spark of defiance can ignite a wildfire that will consume their empire." With a roar, the Xylonians unleashed their fury. Energy beams lanced across the battlefield. Explosions blossomed like deadly flowers, and the air filled with the acrid stench of burning metal. The Kriegs, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, stumbled and faltered, their ranks thinning under the relentless onslaught. Apex led the charge, his enhanced speed and strength allowing him to move through the battlefield like a phantom. He cut a swath through the Krieg ranks, his every blow a symphony of destruction. Xylo, from a hidden command post, directed the battle with a calm precision that belied the chaos surrounding him. He monitored the Krieg movements, anticipating their tactics, and relayed vital information to Apex and the Xylonian commanders. The battle raged for hours, a brutal dance of death under the pale moonlight. The Xylonians, though outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a ferocity born of desperation. They knew that if they failed, their entire species would be enslaved or worse. Finally, the tide began to turn. The Kriegs, their initial arrogance replaced by fear, started to falter. Their lines wavered, their attacks became less coordinated. Apex, sensing their weakness, rallied the Xylonians for a final push. He stormed towards the Krieg command center, a heavily fortified bunker nestled within a crater. The Krieg commander, a hulking figure in cybernetic armor, emerged to meet him, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. The duel was fierce, a whirlwind of blows and parries. Apex, drawing on his millennia of combat experience and Xylo's tactical guidance, gradually gained the upper hand. With a final mighty blow, he disarmed the Krieg commander, sending his weapon flying. The Krieg commander, defeated and humiliated, snarled in rage. "You may have won this battle, human," he spat, "but the war is far from over. We will return, and next time we will not be so easily defeated." Apex stood over the Krieg, his eyes cold and resolute. "The Kriegs will never win," he declared, "not while there are those who fight for freedom, not while there is hope." With that, he delivered the final blow, ending the Krieg commander's life. The remaining Krieg forces, demoralized and leaderless, retreated in disarray. The Xylonians erupted in cheers, their victory hard-won but undeniable. They had faced the Kriegs, the most feared power in the galaxy, and emerged triumphant. In the aftermath, Apex stood beside Xylo, gazing at the rising sun. The light of dawn painted the battlefield in hues of gold and crimson, a symbol of new beginnings. "What now?" Xylo asked, his voice filled with hope. Apex smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his battle-hardened features. "We rebuild," he said. "We help others who suffer under the Krieg's tyranny. We show the galaxy that the spirit of resistance lives on." Together they embarked on a new journey, not as a soldier and a scout, but as brothers in arms, united in their shared purpose. The legacy of humanity lived on in Apex, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring power of empathy, resilience, and the unwavering spirit of defiance.